Yeah, I agree. I don't think you really need a Department of Education for people to get a good education. And I think that's the same thing with a lot of social programs that are put into place to ensure that people are getting education. I agree. I think that that is something, being somebody who's just still somewhat fresh out of the university system, it's definitely needed, some much needed perspective as well. Um, and I mean, that's the unfortunate thing is maybe someone here can correct me if I'm wrong, but do schools here adhere to a certain standard, or is it just more of a certain level of participation in K through 12? I'm not really sure what it's like here in the States because most of my life I was educated overseas. But um, thoughts?
The
Everybody's so polite. No
education
one's
is,
interrupting each other.
yeah, the education basically it is kind of like what everybody
Can't hear
said, you know.
anything. I'm the
So is
only
that
one.
it? Is that it?
Yeah, but just talk over me. It's good.
Okay, no, it's cool. Anybody else want to add? I want to go to the next one.
Can you hear me?
I'm kind of
Hello?
skipping some of the questions just because we're answering some of them as we're talking. Okay, so why do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to piggyback back on what Mike just said as far as public education reform. I quit going to college because I took political science, and my Republican teacher said Donald Trump had a 0% chance of winning. My Republican teacher, I called him out in front of our class, and I said, I barely got into politics, and I'm more of a Republican than you are. And he goes, why do you say that? I'm like, you're saying he has a 0% chance of winning. You're not a Republican. And it's just from seeing, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a lot of Dinesh D'Souza or Ben Shapiro, how skewed our public education system is to the left is ridiculous that you're not getting an education. You're just throwing your money away. You'd be better off going to Barnes & Noble, spending $1,000, getting an economics book, psychology, philosophy, and political science. So Mike it nails it on the head when it comes to the public education system. In California, they got rid of intermediate algebra to get a bachelor's degree, and it's all just a cash cow to get people into school and then say, okay, we need it to be free because what's better for society is an educated society. But you're not educated. It's a lower down version of education because you're just bringing migrants from another country and you're educating them, and the rest of us are getting nothing. I mean, it's ridiculous, the education, especially in California.
Exactly. There needs to be a lot more like technical training, like train people for jobs that are actually out in the economy so that people can have jobs and not be struggling because they got some feminist gender studies degree or whatever.
And also like more apprenticeships, that's like a really great way to learn. I can definitely speak for the education system, being not only being born and raised in California, but having to teach there for 8 years as well. It's awful.
Can I say something?
Anybody else want to add to that?
Can you hear me?
Last question. Okay. Next
Hello?
one. Why do you think so many people are falling for the promise of socialism? We already kind of touched upon that. We start to touch upon that. Is there any?
Y'all hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, okay. Look, I didn't have no volume. Can I say something right quick?
Go ahead.
All right. Look, okay, so I got my son, he's going to school right now, and from personal experience, I see how they're doing these kids, and it seems like they're not trying to teach these children like logical, critical thinking skills. I mean, much less even like memorizing type skills. It seems like a lot of these curriculums are very emotional based, if that makes any type of sense. And there are just certain things that like, one thing that a teacher was teaching was something to the likes that with American history, all the white people had all the black people as slaves, even though that's not the case. And my son's only like 7. You feel me? So that's one thing, but I think it's important to note, not only is it the education, but nobody brought up culture. And I think there's actually a connection in between the education and the culture. And, they kind of bounce back and forth between one another. because the way that our current culture is set up, we saw what happened with Brett Kavanaugh. It seems like everybody's going on a witch hunt. Everybody's going on a mission to destroy the best and the brightest of the country. You know, Brett Kavanaugh, he had an impeccable record. You know, he was a devout Christian, you know, and, you know, he worked his butt off. He earned it. But yet and still, he had to go through what he had to go through. And I'm suspecting that the education is basically going to be set up in the same manner. You know, so there would be negative reinforcements to excel, so to speak. And then there's positive reinforcements to have that victim mentality or to get all emotional and get mad and frustrated. You know, so it really worries me with the education system because there's such a high focus on emotions, you know, but in regards to critical thought or actual real information, it doesn't seem like it's as strong. And then on top of that, the education system actually used to value reading and writing, but now the way that it's set up, they don't care about reading and writing. And it worries me. If you can't read and write, you can't comprehend anything. You know, so we have generations upon generations growing up, not being able to comprehend anything. And then they're so emotional in the first place. And then everybody's wondering, why can't I get through to them? Because they can't even write a damn essay. So, you know, I agree with Mike. You know, we really need to work on the education system. And I think, personally speaking, from personal experience, I think these parents need to step up and get involved. You know, it's the complicity that's allowing these things to happen.
Do you did you tell me you homeschool, Prometheus?
No, I don't.
American Curls, you homeschool, right?
Yes, I homeschool. Yes.
Why did you
my whole family homeschool? But for the same reason,
well, I know I'm feeling dumb. I want you to tell the people.
But for the same reasons that Mike, Nificent, and Prometheus, all the stuff that you guys just said, that's why I homeschool. So yeah, you guys are right about that.
Yeah, the other I don't think you guys have even met her, but my best friend who also we start this channel together, she homeschools her 3 kids, and one of the reasons she's not really as active, that's one of the main reasons. But she's had to like homeschool too. And her kids are super smart, super smart. And when she started, when she was looking into homeschooling, she was doing a lot of research, and she actually found some information that a lot of like Ivy League schools or you know, prestigious schools actually seek out homeschool kids because they're so smart.
They do. That's true.
So I thought that's really interesting because there's also just this like taboo about homeschool kids that they don't have a social life. They're weird. They're not, you know, they're antisocial. They're awkward. They're not as smart as people that actually go to school. But that can't be further from the truth. So I would like to see.
I think it's pushed by the media. I remember I didn't notice this stuff years ago, but now I notice now that I homeschool, and there was a kid who won a spelling bee, and he was homeschooled, and he was like being questioned by it was like a news channel, and she was like, well, don't you wish you were at regular school? And I was like, why would you ask him that? Like, he just won a spelling bee, he's doing fine. And the kid was like, no, I like homeschooling. And she was like, but don't you want friends? And that's when I realized that I think it's the media that's pushing this idea that these kids are, you know, they're on lockdown, you know, they don't know people, they don't know how to act in public. And so I do think that it's just how there's propaganda to push the liberal agenda. They're pushing this narrative that homeschooling is breeding a bunch of crazy psychopaths.
Incident, I think, I forgot. It was like a family that was being held hostage. They were doing something to the kids. I can't remember exactly, but they tried to get on that bandwagon and try and talk about how horrible it was in homeschooling. And, you know, they're actually a very, very strong community. Like, I would not want to mess with homeschoolers. They actually put a shutdown on that situation when they were actually trying to come after and talk about homeschooling is you know, it's evil, it's bad, it's, you know, creating all these You know, that's actually a good solution to school shootings too. All these people that want to whine and talk about school shootings. Well, if you homeschool, then it wouldn't be an issue. You know,
Right?
I'm just saying.
But it's got to be very hard to homeschool because, like, how would the parents go to work and be able to do that? That's just impossible, you know. Like, because I would love to homeschool my son, but hey, got to make money.
Well, you know, you're right. You know, and I think the system is also designed that way, right, to keep us very distracted, and then also keep us, you know, because it's basically like free babysitting, pretty much, right? But they have your children's minds most of the day, most of the time. So it's an excellent, and now they're even trying to push, you know, try and get students into school even earlier, right? So, you know, you hear about stuff in China and in Russia when they were indoctrinating children, and how a lot of the parents or the children's actually turn their own parents in, you know, to the government for their views. And it was, you know, because they were being indoctrinated through school. And now that my friend is maybe she has a little more time, I would actually like to interview her about homeschooling, because there are a lot of resources now. There are even groups, right? So maybe if you can't do it yourself, you can rotate certain days with parents. They also have meetup groups where the children can go and socialize with other children. You know, she found a bunch of groups where she does that. Like, her kids go on camping trips and stuff, and they're not like even rich or anything by any means, but she had the will and she found a way to make it happen. You know, it does, a lot of that also comes with family support and community support. And if we, you know, really put, you know, energy into having a community that supported homeschooling and taking all of these taboos out of society, I think it's actually a real thing that can be accomplished, you know?
Yeah. But what you were saying about the school, I agree with that. And I think that that's why it's important for us to vote conservative, or at least look into the people school choice, because a lot of conservatives are fighting for school choice. And you can't, so you're gonna have to work, some people, but if you have a choice of what school your kid goes to, if you're not forced to be in, you know, your kid's forced to be in a bad school just because you don't have a lot of money. And I don't think that's right. And so I do think that that's another reason. A lot of liberals, Democrats, especially Black Democrats, they don't even realize that. They don't realize that they don't have to be in these school districts, but they just keep voting for Democrats. Democrats will make you stay in that crappy school district, like, until the kid is 18, and they're getting messed up in those school districts. I have family members in the South Side of Chicago. They can't put their kids in public school. They pay for private school because they'll come out with a bunch of gangsters if they do. Like, you and the Democrats, they won't do anything about it. They want your kids to go to those schools. I hate that. It makes me so mad.
You have me rolling. I think last symposium, America Girls, you were like, "Haven't you seen Lean on Me?" I was like, oh my gosh, she's so right. You're like, it's still the same, and you're like, that was back in the 80s. It hasn't changed.
Yeah,
totally right.
It hasn't changed. It's gotten worse. Now we have school shootings too. It's ridiculous.
On top of that, you know, yeah, man.
See, we're talking about the lesser of two evils. Okay, which side is going to let you decide your children's education? See, lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
No, but the Republicans are trying to take away the education. They're evil.
No. The craziest conspiracy about this is they're saying school choice is actually racist. And when Donald Trump talks about school choice and make America great again, he's actually dog whistling. He wants to go back to when the government, I think it was Dwight Eisenhower, whoever it was that desegregated the schools and said, no, this is unconstitutional. Well, then they went for school choice, and when the school choice passed in the South, all the white parents bullied Black parents who tried to take their kids into the schools. And then when they desegregated the schools, the parents, the white racist parents, were like, "No, we need school choice. We want to homeschool our kids." So that's why they conspiracy theorists and say, like, oh yeah, he wants to take it back to the good old days where, you know, white people don't want any blacks and darks in their schools, and they're gonna homeschool them and get them out. There's gonna be whites only signs. You guys know how this hyperbole and this stupid dumb rhetoric goes, but it's just fear mongering. But that's what they say, is school choice is racist. You know, that's just going back to the old days when desegregation, when they fought against it. So stupid.
Hey, conservative Mexican, I thought you did a video. Was that you that did a video like a few months ago where there were liberals that were complaining about that the situation, but yet when they were getting vouchers or they were giving away vouchers for inner city schools to go to their schools, they like tripped out, they flipped out. Was that you that did the video?
I think it got to a point to where they actually protested in front of and this was even a charter school. So this isn't even really a private school. They actually protested in front of it, saying that the location of it was a hazard for the children. So they don't want any kind of school choice at all, because I know in California, each K through 12, we're spending $10,000 a student for education, and that's where pretty much the majority of the budget comes from. So they don't want any kind of competition at all, which I think actually would be a good thing. I think that would be a good thing if you had public schools competed with private schools, and if public schools are better, then go that route. I think that's the beauty of having the choice. You get to pick what you get to spend your money on, and the left pretty much just wants to have control over all of that, which is actually, once again, I know I talk about immigration a lot, but being in California, that's where it's a huge thing, because if an illegal comes to California, have kids, boom, they're automatic U.S. citizens, and they're spending all that money on education. So yeah, they will fight that tooth and nail to keep public schools the majority, the one choice for everybody.